HBO aired a 45-minute of Last Week Tonight in which John Oliver argued that men have only limited or no advantage over women in sports on the same evening that a women's pool final was contested between two men.
Here she is explaining what we do and don't know at this point.
It is undoubtedly true that trans women will maintain advantages in some sports. Probably not so much in endurance sports, but in size and strength sports. Trans women will also have some physiological disadvantages. Our larger frames are now being powered by reduced muscle mass and reduced aerobic capacity, and that can lead to disadvantages in terms like quickness, recovery, endurance, things that maybe aren't quite as obvious as being bigger and stronger.
Right, bigger and stronger body.
Please listen to this perverted man explain science to you. Oh no, you don't understand. We have reduced muscles, but we're bigger. Yeah, but you're still literally stronger than them.
Are not automatically advantaged in every scenario. I mean,
not automatically advantaged in every scenario. So what is a sport that cis women outcompete trans women at?
Put The Rock in a pure bar class and see what happens. I mean, we know what would happen. He'd take a video of himself, caption it, "Mad respect to these mamas, everyone go see Moana 2, and try to use it to sell his tequila before eating 13,000 pancakes and drinking a cow. We know what would happen. But the degree of difference here matters because we expect a certain amount of difference in athletics. Taller basketball players are expected to compete against shorter ones, faster soccer players compete against slower ones. Michael Phelps was allowed to compete with other swimmers despite being part dolphin. And crucially, none of the studies I've mentioned so far bear much relevance to what these new laws target, which is youth sports, usually of all ages. And the research there is even more scant.
Right, so basically a bunch of studies have confirmed what fucking common sense has told us since the dawn of time, that men are more athletic than women. And so now the new argument is like, oh yeah, but we haven't studied children's athleticism and specifically with trans. Specifically, we haven't studied the athleticism of prepubescent trans children. It's like, dude, what are you? Those are just boys. If they're prepubescent and they're like not on hormones, then they're just boys. They're not even trans if it's just a social thing.
We have no research about how being trans or undergoing gender-affirming treatment impacts athletic performance in teens. And when it comes to kids before the onset of puberty, I could talk about the studies showing the subtle performance differences between boys and girls, but I'd argue
subtle differences between boys and girls. I'm just thinking back now to when I was 7 years old in gym class. We did have boys and girls competing against each other. We would play sports like soccer or kickball or dodgeball. But you know what's weird? It was never boys against girls ever. And everybody knows that the best athletes were always boys. Always. And so you would never say to your 7-year-old gym class, like, all right, we're playing dodgeball today and it's boys against girls. No one's ever done that. Or soccer or whatever. Does anybody here who went to public school, elementary school, think that boys were not better athletes than girls? And something else that never gets brought up in these conversations, because it's even more controversial than what we all know is obvious. Everybody knows men are more athletic than women. Everybody fucking knows that. But what's even more controversial to bring up, and you'll never hear it from somebody like John Oliver, is that there are also psychological differences between men and women that impact their ability to play competitive sports. And this is not, again, it's common sense that everybody knows, but it's not speculative either. They have done so many behavioral science studies, including on like babies and toddlers. There was a study on toddlers that they found that like if you put like a reward, like a treat or whatever that a kid has to like crawl to, and you do that a couple times, and then you put like an obstacle in the way, what they found was that young toddler boys would find a way to deal with the obstacle. Toddler girls would sit there and cry until someone came and fixed it for them. So that's just one example of like the psychological differences between the sexes that impact your ability to, like, say, for example, play a game like dodgeball where you're facing I know it's not a competitive sport, but just to stick with the young person theme here, whatever, soccer, baseball, actual competitive sports, basketball, where there's risk of getting like ran over by the opposing team, getting tripped. And women are more jumpy about that shit. They're more flinchy. You know what I mean? They're more anxious about getting hurt than boys. So all of these things factor into the difference of competitiveness.
When you're talking about 7-year-olds, as a practical matter, that's a point where lots of school sports are co-ed anyway, and a key difference between competitors on a field can come down to whether a kid was born in October or April. And at this point, you might...
Exactly. Women play flag football even when it's women's leagues. They're trying to make that like they have that NFL ad where they're like, we're going to make women's flag football like a thing that you're going to fucking tune in and watch, Chud. Yeah, okay, good luck with that. But if it's just women against women, why wouldn't there be tackling? It's because of how women are psychologically. That's why. The women don't want to get tackled. They don't want to get hurt.
Saying, well, I don't need to wait for scientific research. This is all common sense, and I know what I've seen online. But a lot of what you've seen may not be quite what you think it is, both when it comes to trans athletes' impact on competition or safety.
The girls didn't want to be there, and the boys acted like their life depended on... Exactly. So there's so much happening psychologically that factors into this that it's insane, but we can't talk about that because, again, this is like super controversial. If you say men and women are not just physically different, but we have different psychology, we have different personality traits and this and that, that's like super controversial, because if you acknowledge that men and women are different psychologically, then all of a sudden it's a lot harder to be like, ooh, there's not enough women in STEM, and to blame everything on discrimination and sexism. And well, the reason there's not as many women scientists and inventors and geniuses is because of discrimination, because that's the only possible explanation, because psychologically we're exactly the same. Here, the whole 45 minutes feels like it was made in 2019, not last week. It does everything it claims the right is doing. Statistics are manipulated. Language is misleading. Women like Riley Gaines are mocked for speaking out. Yeah, and they do the thing where they like play on your emotions, and they show you like some trans teen girl who's being excluded, and they talk to him, and he's like, it makes me sad that I'm not allowed to do this thing that I love doing, this sport. And then you're supposed to like feel bad for him. Diabolical movie night. What is going on with the Minecraft movie? Hey, what up, family? I'm a ding dong. It is I, your boy LP, and the clip you just watched is from my live stream show, The Daily Cope, which I do 4 to 5 times a week on Rumble, Odyssey, and my other YouTube channel. I will link all of them below if you want to check it out. And thanks for watching. Hope you're having a great day, and I will catch you on the flip side. Peace out.